Hey guys, so this is going to be a video on how I mix my paints, and then we're going to do a pour. So first of all, I use this Floetrol. I get the big gallon ones because it's definitely most cost effective. And first I'm going to show how I actually mix my paints, and then I'll show more like measurements. So generally I do this. I dump my Floetrol in here, then I take my paint and I use these Flow Acrylics. So this cup is about 1/3 full, and then I just go ahead and dump this in here till it's about half of the amount of Floetrol that I put in there. Then I go ahead and stir it up very, very well. Make sure that's well mixed. And then I go ahead and add my water. And I try to just add a little bit at a time. I'm just doing this until it gets to the right consistency. So that right there is still pretty thick. I hope you can kind of see it run off. It is flowing nicely. But it's still a little bit thick. It's kind of hard to do these videos on how I mix my paints because I go much more based off of the feel when I'm stirring it than based off of how much it runs off of my stick. So hopefully you can see that. Try to put it up as close as possible. It's flowing nicely now. Really nicely. So that's pretty well mixed. Okay, so hopefully that helps. I am going to show you something else here though. And just so you know, I do about 2/3 Floetrol to 1/3 paint. And it does matter what kind of paint you're using. So this right here is just craft paint. And I want to show you just the difference between the paints. So if you can see there, it completely covers the bottom there. That is a paint that flows a lot. It's watery, much more watery than this. Is going back to my Flow Acrylics. So that is a lot thicker. So how you mix the paints also really depends on the kind of paint you're using. So with a watery paint like these craft paints, I would use less Floetrol than I would on the thicker paints. So I would use about 50-50 with that. And with this, I would use about the 2/3 Floetrol, 1/3 paint. Because like I said, they're very different. The craft paints, they don't have as much pigment in them. So I use less Floetrol and more paint. And you're also going to need to add a lot less water. So that's pretty well stirred there. Go ahead and stir this. So let's try to do this stick test. This is with the craft paint with Floetrol, no water. It's already running pretty nicely. I really hope you can see that. So I would just add a tiny bit of water to that. This, however, is quite thick. It's clumpy. It is not flowing nicely. Okay, so I need more water for that one. So for this one, just a tiny bit. For this one, decent amount. So people ask all the time, what is the ratio? That is definitely the most commonly asked question. To which my answer would be, well, this is my ratio, but it really depends on what kind of paint you're using. So my ratio with the Flow acrylics, which is what I use most of the time, my ratio is 2/3 Floetrol, 1/3 paint. And then I add the water to consistency. I need a tiny bit more water in both of these. Okay. So, nicely running off my stick here. Okay. Go ahead and finish mixing the yellow. Whoops. And there we go. Nicely running off my stick. Not too watery. The best analogy I've heard is it's the consistency of warm honey. Like, I don't know, some people maybe, I guess, don't know what warm honey is like. But if you ever have a honey and it's kind of solid, you stick it in the microwave or you heat it up and it gets nice and kind of syrupy. That's the consistency you're going for. So now for the fun part, we're going to go ahead and do a pour. And just so you guys know too, I pre-mix my paints. So I use these bottles. This way I don't have to waste cups. I just reuse the same bottles over and over. And I use them for my main colors. So for the... Uh-oh, got out of focus. Okay, well anyways, it doesn't need focus right now. But I use them for my red, yellow, blue, and black and white. And then if I want to make an odd color, I'll just take those and mix them in a cup. Although I do have this kind of teal color that I made in one of these bottles just because I had an extra bottle. So I'm going to figure out the focus issue and then we'll go ahead and do a pour. Okay, we're back in focus. So go ahead and start with white. This is going to be a very colorful pour. You know, I'm actually, since this is a bigger canvas, I'm going to use 2 cups. And I'll just flip them next to each other. Let's see. Go ahead and use these pre-mixed colors that I did. I mixed a lot of green. And yes, even though it's craft paint, I am going to go ahead and use this orange. And I think we'll do this one without silicone, which I've had it asked too. Don't you need silicone? No, you don't. You can have cells without silicone. No problem. And a little bit of red. I think we'll add a little bit of black. Alright, that is more than enough paint, I'm sure. Okay, go ahead and flip these. And try to just flip it like this. Okay, sort of. Alright, good enough. Okay, good. I'm going to let these sit for a minute, and then we'll go ahead and pull them up. And in case anyone's wondering why I let them sit, it's really because all the white's on the bottom and I want to give it a chance to come down. So, pull those up. Alright, and I am going to go ahead and torch this. Got a lot of air bubbles. And I have had it asked recently, do you need a torch? No, you absolutely do not. Can you use a hairdryer? Well, yes, you could. It really won't have the same effect quite as much, and it will definitely move the paint around because it's blowing a lot of air out. It's blowing hot air. This isn't blowing any air. This is just fire, just heat. Okay. So far pretty cool. I'm excited. Okay. It's pretty cool, this orange part over here. Alright. That was a lot of paint on there. Cool. I really like this. Alright. Decide if I want to torch any other parts. I think I'm going to leave it be. Alright, so I'm going to let this sit for a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and go in for the close-up. Okay, so definitely a lot more blue has popped through here. Green's coming up all over the place over here, and all kinds of colors over here. I did decide to torch it just a little bit more, just a few select spots. Okay, I feel like a common misconception is that you have to torch the whole thing, which you can really just torch select spots. I usually like to kind of do stripes, especially where I see a lot of colors kind of trying to pop up below. But I don't want to take out any cool parts. Like, this is really cool, so I really don't want to take anything out over there. This is a bit more muddied over here, so maybe a little bit along here, without interfering with that blue that's coming up there. Okay. Yeah, really not a lot that I want to do here. You can definitely over torch it. I have first-hand experience on this. So we'll go ahead and we'll go in for the close-up. And I have a feeling that this is going to continue to move quite a bit more overnight. But as it is, I really like it. And I think it's just going to be super awesome when it dries. So I used all kinds of colors in this thing. So here's a lot of the orange over here. We got just rainbow over here. This is where you can see how the black and white came together. All the colors popping through, like this part over here. The orange and green together. It's pretty cool. Very green over here. Green, blue, orange. Yeah. So overall, super cool. I really like how this came out. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you got some helpful tips regarding mixing your paint. And don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you the next time.